Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We are so excited to have everybody part of this webinar. The community has shown up in a great big way on our very first meeting, Alan.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Currently, we are a breath away from 500 registered people, and the number that are on the line now is 140 people and climbing quickly. It's been incredibly encouraging and humbling to see the response to this idea of bringing together change makers for the purpose of solving problems and adding value. And we, both Jeff and I, look forward to serving this community going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And so thank you, everybody, for your support. Let's talk housekeeping just briefly. Obviously, we've all probably at this point been on a few too many Zoom webinars. I trust you know how to use the chat and the questions, but know that we are monitoring the chat. Please use the chat to communicate back and forth. We will be doing a time of questions at the end, so any questions you want to log for the panel, please do so using the Q&A feature. What to expect? So we're going to do introductions here shortly. We'll help frame a business problem. You're going to see our guides and our tech stack solve that business problem in real time. Afterwards, you'll get a full price breakdown of the solution. And my favorite thing, once we do the question and answers, you're going to get an opportunity to meet with the integrators, the tech partners, with Alan and I, in a series of different breakout rooms in a really fun new platform called Wonder. You're going to want to make sure you stick around for that. Alan, you ready? Should we get started?
Let's go.
All right. Well, it's my pleasure to introduce the team from Vertech. I've worked personally with Vertech integration for the last 5 years. I have been able to witness their professionalism and their ability to solve problems in a real way. I introduce my friend, Chris McLaughlin, to the group. Chris, how are you, sir?
What's up, Jeff? Very glad to be here on the inaugural Integrate Live. It's a great day and proud to be a part of this community. And
well, good. So, hey, Chris, I'm just real quick question for you. I've been told that your wife took your pony to the vet. Is that true?
I do vaguely remember that.
Yeah, something about the pony was named. She was worried about strep throat, but the vet said you was just a little hoarse.
Yeah. So in following with the tradition, Jeff, I recently moved into an igloo, and my friends threw me the surprise housewarming party. I'm homeless now.
Oh, well, that's who Chris is. Alan, why don't you introduce Ryan to the group?
Hey, thanks, Jeff. Ryan, it's a pleasure to have you on the call. Just the interaction I've had with you has been great. And just in case you didn't know, the reason the toilet paper didn't get across the road is because it got stuck in the crack.
Well, Alan, I appreciate you letting me know about that. But I've got a question for you. Like I said, it's good to be here, but do you know why Spider-Man's evil twin failed his driver's test?
No, I don't.
He was a terrible parallel parker.
Oh my goodness, that's good.
So, but yeah.
So Ryan, here's your crown, sir. Why don't you guys take it away and introduce the rest of the tech stack?
Yeah, awesome. So also with us, we've got Kyle Carew from Kepware.
Yep. Hey, Ryan. Hey, everyone. Good. Thanks, everyone. Question for you guys. What do you call Batman when he skips on church on Sunday? Christian Bale.
There it is. Awesome. Good to have Kyle on the call from Kepware. And also we've got Ian Scarrett from HiveMQ. How's it going, Ian?
Hey, thanks for having me. And you know, I've been reading this really great anti-gravity book, and I just can't put it down. But I will try for this.
And also with us today from Canary, Josh. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey guys, I'm a senior software engineer here at Canary. My joke is, why do astronauts use Linux? Because you can't open Windows in space. So I'm here to answer some questions for you guys.
Joke.
And also here from Canary is Kyle.
Yeah. Chris, do you know what a pirate's favorite musical note is?
The high seas.
And that's our crew for today.
Oh, thank you, Chris. So a lot of people have been asking me, and Alan, I believe you as well, what is Integrate Live all about, if not about a place to exchange dad jokes? So we did want to here at the upfront just cover what can you expect out of this community and why have we put some effort into forming it. Really, Alan and I's heart came together on aligning end users, system integrators, hardware manufacturers, software vendors together into one ecosystem. We wanted to help empower change makers that are trying to figure out how to do the next stage of Industry 4.0 or digital transformation. And we needed some type of a common factor amongst this group.
Yeah, to do that, we really want to set a foundation around these three common threads. And so the first is going to be humility. We're all here because we don't have all the answers. In fact, more than likely, some of us cause some of the problems that our industry is facing today. And so we absolutely need each other here. The second is going to be openness. Openness together. Let's build a community that collaborates with each other, that's willing to work with our competitors and our competing products. But let's even go further than that. Let's actually start joining with these other communities that are doing similar things in the same domain. And lastly is service. As we serve each other in this community, openness and humility will naturally occur. Trust will take root, and the byproduct of trust is going to be value to us as individuals and value to our companies.
Absolutely. It's all about how do we together add more value in our professional lives and hopefully as well in our personal lives. So Alan, tell them how we're going to actually come together.
Yeah, our workshops are going to identify a problem and show a way that we can solve that problem and in real time. At the end of the workshop, we're going to show you the cost of today's solution. And the hope is that if you face this problem, the solution that we show today, not that it's the only solution, but that the solution we show today will bring a higher value than the cost to deploy the solution. And of course, we want this to be a conversation. We don't want to talk at you. We want to talk with you. And so there will be questions and comments during the workshop, but I'm most excited about the opportunity to continue the conversation after the workshop in the Wonder session. And so please plan on sticking around, joining us for that. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. And so to continue the conversation even further beyond today, every time we do one of these virtual workshops, the following Wednesday, same time, we're going to have the Integrate Live rundown. The rundown is the follow-up conversation. It's the story behind the companies, story behind the people. We'll review the project as you saw it play out in front of you. We're going to celebrate our wins. We might have to explain if there's a train wreck along the way, of course. But think of it as the content you might want to listen to on a lunch break or on a morning commute. Now, here's the great news. When you attend a virtual workshop, you're already going to be pre-registered for the rundown. And so be looking into your inbox here at the end of this today for that registration. So that's going to be essentially the way that we gather and our pace. You're going to have these coupled pieces of content, virtual workshop, then the rundown with a break in between for planning. But we don't want to just gather together without purpose. And so we want to really focus on how we're going to grow.
Yeah, so for us to grow, we feel it's important that we have an anchor that we always tie back to. So for us, that anchor is going to be the value of a data point. So from the creation of a data point all the way to the data point becoming obsolete, we want to examine the systems. And more importantly, we want to examine the people that are going to be impacted by that data.
Yeah, and that's really important because we know that depending on what part of an operation you're involved in or what your role is, you don't always see the full value chain of a data point. And it's difficult to understand how, when you are working on a data point downstream or upstream, how it affects other people along that path. So we're really excited to bring maybe a point of clarity and also just to gather around that concept of what I do affects others and other systems. And that's going to bring us into today's business use case, where we're really going to focus on the value of a data point. Chris, Ryan, walk us through.
Yep. All right. So this is where it gets real. Now you've seen the vision for what Integrate Live is. And thank you, Alan and Jeff, for just creating this community. So this is what we're going to do today. We brought you all the involved parties that are going to build this solution. But what are we even doing? So the use case is this, is that we all have old hardware out there. So whether you're in a manufacturing plant or food and bev, you have old PLCs out there. PLC 5s, Slicks, old Siemens, old Modicon. Maybe you have old controllers, like in a CNC machine. So you got something from Fanuc. And the question is, what do I do with this? How can I actually connect to it and get data out of it? How do I change it from being just an island that is disconnected from the rest of my information systems?
Yeah, but Chris, we got to talk about why we want to even get data out of these machines, because like it's all well and good if I'm, in a facility and I'm responsible for this equipment, but like I've got to understand why I even want to get data out of it. There's got to be a motivation. And so just a couple of examples that I want to throw out for everybody who, just to help everybody think about this, is maybe we want some reliable production reporting of just production numbers, or OEE, and tracking, how efficiently my machine is producing and working, or downtime, anything like that. Also, let's say you've got an injection molding machine or some sort of press, and you've been having hydraulic pressure issues. And imagine if you could monitor that and have history of that information over time, and be able to diagnose issues and set alarming on that. And the other, another example would be in like water distribution. You've got an old pump station that's out at a remote site, and you need to connect to that and see what's going on at that pump station without having to send somebody out every single time there's a potential problem. So there's all sorts of reasons why we would need to connect. But Chris, what I've got to ask is, why wouldn't I just like upgrade the PLC, right? We can just do a PLC conversion, put everybody on, the latest and greatest L8 gig network. Like, can't we just go big?
Of course, everybody's balling on this call. You can just throw in a brand new control logics. If you have 15 grand to drop on that processor, let alone the IO, and then the programming labor for that, and then the downtime when you're replacing it, and everything else that's going to go along with it, and start multiplying that by multiple machines within your facility, or multiple sites, or multiple just controllers that you need to replace, and it gets super expensive, super fast. So that's the easy way if you have all the money in the world. We're going to take you through a real life way of what if you just needed to connect right now because you want that data, and a less expensive way of going about that. And Jeff, next.
Yep. So this is the sort of technology stack that we're going to use to work with and deal with this problem that we've got today. And there's three big steps that we've got to go through. We've got to gather that data. We've got to actually get it out of the machine. We've got to distribute that data. It's got to be available for people and services to consume it. And then we got to make sure that we store that data as well, because while we need it for real-time things often, more likely is that we need it historically so we can do some analysis on it later and make some decisions based on past performance. So for that gather step, we're going to use some Kepware products and the Kepware server, and you'll see that in the demo coming up. For HiveMQ, we're going to use HiveMQ as that distribute layer. That's all going to be based on MQTT, which is just incredibly efficient and beneficial. And man, is this HiveMQ just easy to set up. and you'll see how simple it is when we go through the demo. And then we've got Canary as that storage or that historian to be able to, it can connect to a lot of stuff, but obviously MQTT is one of those things. We're going to set this up in Canary Cloud. Again, quick and easy type setup. And they've obviously got some visualization stuff on that as well so you could actually look at some of this stuff.
And
next slide, Jeff.
Well, just run last thing on that of you might wonder why these three. And we're aware there's plenty of stuff out there. We're not beholden to anybody. And these are just the three that we use personally in our own life. This is what Vertech as an integrator uses to deploy different projects. We've had everything out there on the market to be able to choose from. And so this is just an honest look into what we do. We acknowledge fully that there are other things out there that do similar, but these are the ones that we feel do it best. And that's why we brought those today.
Yeah, thanks for hitting on that, Chris. And to kind of show you this map that's showing right now, just to give you kind of a framework in your mind, we'll come back to this picture at the end. But the goal here is just to give you a map as we walk through this. So in our example, we've got a Slick 505 that we're going to use Kepware to connect to. This could be any legacy controller. I think we'll see a big long list of all the things that Kepware can talk to. They can talk to your equipment. That problem can get solved, and then that data is going to get pushed up to HiveMQ, and then Canary is going to consume that data out of HiveMQ, and then Axiom is going to be able to visualize it. And you can put any service against that HiveMQ into addition to Canary as long as it can consume over MQTT. So just to give you kind of a picture of what this is going to look like as we walk through the different parts of this solution.
Kyle, can you please share your screen and start us through us? And
I think it's actually the slideware next, but there we go. Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, so the previous panelists kind of outlined exactly the problem that Kepware solves from a lower level. So I want to touch on a couple things. So one, as the guys pointed out, not everybody has the L8 processor out in the floor. We wish you did, but that's not the case. So even if you're all the same vendor, let's say you have all Rockwell or all Siemens or all Mitsubishi or whatever, there's still going to be different models of PLCs out there. There might be different protocols. One might be serial, one might be Ethernet. It's a very heterogeneous environment. Not only that, but getting that, once you do have that data unlocked, then you have the challenge of, well, how do I get it to, let's say, a SCADA system? How do I get it to an MQTT broker like HiveMQ? Or, hey, maybe I want to send something to a database. Or, hey, maybe I need to massage that data a little bit and do some simple math before I send that out. Well, that's where Kepware comes in, and Kepware solves that lower level problem. Actually, if you want to go to the next slide for me.
There we go.
There we go. Nice. Awesome. So I'm going to keep, I think there might be one more bullet point, actually. Sorry to.
Oh, you're fine.
Perfect. There we go. Cool. So the graphic on the right kind of picture paints 1,000 words, but really all we're doing is we're taking data from your industrial assets out on the floor, and then we're actually sending it to a variety of different types of client applications. And, as the team alluded to here, part of this community is very open, right? So, Kepware really just has the ability to send stuff to basically everything. So, we've been doing this for 25, almost 30 years at this point. All we focus on is that industrial connectivity. And what's funny, and sort of like an internal joke here, is Kepware by itself is honestly pretty useless, because all we're doing is we're the piping. That's it. So we need people like HiveMQ. We need people like Canary. We need those other client softwares to come and get the data. If you just have Kepware, that's not the whole stack. It solves a very important challenge of, hey, how do we get all this data from these legacy devices? But that's all we do. Very important, but not everything. So, obviously to the right, that's our technology hamburger, as we call it. Picture paints 1,000 words. But actually, if you go to the next slide here, how about 1,000 words paints a picture, right? So here's a list of all the drivers that we have available. I don't know all of these off the top of my head. I don't know anybody here that maybe could list all these, but there's a lot here. And I forget who said it, but someone had mentioned, basically if there's legacy equipment out there, if there's modern equipment out there, we can connect to it.
And Ryan is now going to read every single one of those words in order.
I saved you, Ryan.
Yeah, I just noticed Cross Mafai on there. Shout out. I worked on one of those a long time ago.
Well, why don't we go to Ian? Ian, tell us what HiveMQ is.
Great, thanks, Chris. Just in next slide. So some of you might not have heard of HiveMQ before. We're a German-based software company. They're based just outside of Munich. And really, what HiveMQ does is we help companies connect devices to the cloud, to the internet. And a device could be a piece of factory equipment. It could be a car. It could be a drone. There's kind of the device is really what kind of the thing in Internet of Things. And we do that in a kind of really an efficient, fast, and reliable manner. And I think that's kind of one of the key things is that our customers come to us when they really value reliability. Because when you put an entity broker into your plant or your system, it can become a single point of failure, right? So you want to make sure that broker is reliable, and you can kind of ensure that it's always up. And that's really why kind of our customers come to us. So we've gotten lots of customers, kind of great brand name customers. We're very much in the manufacturing industrial automation industry, but we also deal with non kind of in other industries. So for instance, in the connected car world, if you buy a BMW or an Audi today, all the connectivity from those cars to the cloud is done through HiveMQ. To give you an example, we deal with in the transportation logistics industry with things like fleet management, in public transit. We've got a number of cities that are implementing new modern public transit systems using HiveMQ. And we also have worked with lots of companies that are building connected products that need connectivity. And they use HiveMQ and MQTT to do that. Next slide, please. So just at a very high level, kind of what HiveMQ is, we're really what we call an enterprise entity platform. And the key is that we run in what's called a clustered environment. So what you can do is you can run multiple instances of an MQTT broker in parallel. All your connections can go into basically a single IP address with a load balancer, and the clients are distributed to each of the cluster nodes. And the key from reliability and kind of fault tolerance perspective is if one of those cluster nodes goes down, which they can do, all of the clients are redistributed from that node to the remaining nodes, right? And that's really where you get the reliability, right? So those nodes, those clients that were connected continue to remain connected, and so your latency and your kind of the user experience is still very, very positive. We also have what we call the HiveMQ Control Center. One of the things that people kind of often overlook is when you deploy out an IoT system, the devices can actually start to become black boxes. So if you have an issue with a device, how do you troubleshoot it? How do you diagnose it? And this is really where our control center comes in. It provides you that observability, that visibility into the clients that are connecting to your systems, and the things that they subscribe to, the connectivity status that they have. So that's really the HiveMQ platform. We have an extension SDK that allows you to connect and flow data into different backend systems, and we're going to be showing Canary today. And the final thing is, I think, kind of what really differentiates us is kind of you're able to deploy HiveMQ in different modes, right? So lots of our customers will deploy HiveMQ within a factory, within a data center, and run it themselves. They also deploy it themselves on Azure or AWS and run it on those cloud platforms. And what we're going to be showing today is we have what's called HiveMQ Cloud, which is a managed MQTT service, where we'll run the MQTT broker for you, so you don't have to worry about all the administration of the broker. And this is what we're going to show today. So back to you, Chris.
Thank you. Okay, so in the chat, been noticing a lot of the old legacy. And so it is an important distinction. 100% knew that this question was going to come up because it has to. That there are devices that don't have Ethernet connectivity. You can't even get it onto the network in the first place to be able to start taking advantage of Kepware or HiveMQ and up through the line. So we're going to save this topic specifically. It will be the very first thing that we answer at the end of this. So we'll take you through a device that can get onto the network, and then we will have hardware related answers of what you do if you can't even get it onto the network. And we'll handle that as the first thing in the Q&A. So Kyle, show us about Canary.
But so today for Integrate Live, we're just going to focus on collecting data from an MQTT broker. We do support both JSON and SparkPlug-B. You can really keep your system organized by only collecting the data that you need, and we can apply filters to subscribe to specific topics. So that way, the choice is yours. You can grab everything or just apply certain filters to be very specific about what you grab. Also, with our collector, it can be designated as primary host within MQTT. And that keeps the publishing clients aware of our connectivity, and publishing clients can then buffer if we're disconnected from Canary as the primary host, and could potentially store and forward the data locally if the client supports that feature. So that means data security, but not needing to worry about data loss. Now, most customers do install Canary on their own servers or in their own cloud solution, especially when talking about larger enterprise level solutions. But we do have the Canary cloud. That makes it easy to get a system up and running quickly. And you're going to see a really powerful system here from HiveMQ, but it's our goal in the future to make the Canary cloud just as powerful. Configuring a system that's going to fit your needs is very simple because you don't need to worry about being charged to transfer your data into a Canary cloud instance. And finally, we're never going to limit your architecture options because with Canary, all data collectors are always included at no extra cost. And we collect data local to the source using industry standard formats like OPC UA or DA, of course, MQTT, which we're going to see today. But Canary can also collect data directly from SCADA systems through a .NET or web API. And then once all that data is flowing, you can use Axiom, which is our trending, dashboarding, and reporting tool. It's super easy to learn. It's built using HTML, so it can work from a smartphone or a tablet out in the field. It's drag and drop design features, so it makes building dashboards and different trend charts a breeze. So you'll see that later on here in the demo today.
All right. Yeah, so obviously we've talked a lot about MQTT and kind of that it is a part of this solution and, you know, how all of this is going to work. So, you know, I wanted to make sure that we did touch on kind of what MQTT is just shortly. So Ian, do you want to give just a quick explanation of what is MQTT?
Sure. No, I think it's important because this is kind of the underlying protocol that we're going to be using to show this solution. So MQTT is an open standard. It's a standard that's been published by the OASIS group, so which is a standards body. And I think that's really important because it basically is the level playing field for all the vendors. This isn't a vendor protocol that we're using. This is a protocol that no one owns, right, and no one controls. It's a standards body that controls it, and multiple vendors participate in setting the standards. So that's really important, I think, for keeping an open ecosystem available. It's based on a publish subscribe protocol. And what that allows you to do is basically each of the clients can publish information when they want to, right? So it's not polling response, it's publishing. And you can actually do things like report by exception, which is very powerful in terms of keeping kind of bandwidth and efficiency down. And then different clients can subscribe to information too that they want to get to. right? And this publish subscribe protocol kind of creates this decoupled architecture. And decoupled architecture is really important in terms of kind of the future proofing of your system, because each client can participate in the system and not really understand what the other clients are. So if you can actually, so in the future, if you need to add a new piece of hardware, or if you need to add kind of a new data store that you want to kind of add into your system, or an MES system or a SCADA system, you can do that without impacting any of the other clients. I think this is a really kind of important concept to go forward with in terms of designing these systems. And the final area, and I think is very relevant here, is that the MQTT client is very efficient. It's very small, so you can actually put them on very small devices. And if you're doing systems that are remote asset management, like in oil and gas, for instance, the bandwidth is very efficient too, right? So the message payload is very, the header information is very, very small. And again, because it's a publish subscribe protocol, you're not doing things like polling response and chewing up network traffic with your polling response. So that's a quick introduction for MQTT, and we can certainly kind of handle questions in the Q&A. I thought it was important to kind of level set everyone.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Ian. Yeah, and I just again, I love, and I'll just hit on again that is really an open, actually open standard that you can just Google and go read and implement an MQTT anything if you're a developer and you don't know anybody, any licensing, and it's just that's a huge deal. And for those that don't know, MQTT is even bigger than industrial information, right? It's great at industrial stuff, but it's important to remember, I think Ian pointed out, connected cars, there's networking equipment that's using it, there's banks that are using it. It's way bigger than just industrial. And so we and the industrial space are just getting all of the benefit of everybody working into that. And so that's another thing that makes it a great choice for a solution like this. So kind of circling back. So we've kind of introduced all of the things, and I'm going to get through this pretty quick to get to the demo, because that's the part that everybody is here to see. But essentially, here's our map, right? We're going to use the Kepware drivers to be able to talk to this Slick 505 controller. And then the Kepware server has an add-in that is going to enable us to send that data over MQTT from Kepware up to HiveMQ. And again, like Ian explained, that's a publish subscribe protocol. So Kepware is going to push the data to HiveMQ. HiveMQ doesn't need to know about the Kepware server before we set that up, right? So HiveMQ just sits there and Kepware shoves the data up there. And that's really important because you can just go down to the plant floor and throw these devices up after that MQTT instance is up in the cloud. And you don't have to come up with all these huge architecture maps of what are my addresses and all of my names going to be and all of that. You can just go, right? So that's a huge benefit, especially if you want to get going fast. Then again, we've got all the reliability and the robustness of HiveMQ and the redundancy there. So Canary is just going to pipe that data right out of HiveMQ and store it and put it into their historian so that you can view with Axiom or anything else that to pull data out of Canary as a client. And just I'll mention it. We've got these lock icons here. All this MQTT stuff is built on top of standard networking protocols. We're getting encryption for free, essentially, right? It's not extra, it's not new, it's baked in at the ground floor. And so all of that is already taken care of within the protocol. So let's get on to the demo, because I think that's going to be a whole lot more fun. So Kyle, if you want to go ahead and share your screen and take it away.
Kyle, while you're setting up your screen share,
Sure.
on our side, Ryan, can you peruse the chat, see if anyone came up with the correct answer for the impossible trivia question? 1978, what did Colorado legislature vote to remove from Pikes Peak? while he's looking for that, hey, do us a favor, take a poll, please. We want to hear from you as the community. We want to know more about your interest, and we'd love to understand just what we can do to serve you better in the future. And we'll have you do that while we take care of the screen share.
That poll is only 3 short questions. It should pop right up on your screen.
Hey, Jeff, could you do me a favor? I can't share until you unshare your screen.
What?
Perfect. Thank you.
It's my first Zoom.
So, and I'm not, I haven't seen any answers to the impossible question, Jeff.
Okay, so use the chat if you can. What is the thing that Colorado legislation voted in 1978 to remove from Pikes Peak? I'm excited to see if anybody gets this. This will be the greatest trivia question you'll ever have to stump somebody in the future. It's a parking lot. I saw a parking lot. Yes, I like it. No.
Yes.
Justin.
Kyle, it's all you. We've taken 37 minutes of the hour, giving you guys a short 23 minutes to make this all work.
All right.
Perfect. No problem. I always boast that I can do device to cloud in under 5. So let's see what I can do here. Okay, so what we're looking at now is the GUI or the graphic interface for Kepware. So really, this is where we'll be doing most of our configuration of the server. It does have, it is a separate service, meaning that the runtime, or the thing that's actually doing the data transfer and the data piping, is completely separate from the configuration. So you don't have to have this configuration window up all the time. So 3 short things that any Kepware project has to go through in order to get data, and that's creating a channel, creating a device, and then finally creating tags within all of those. So first thing we're going to do here, actually, we'll give you a quick tour. So down below here, we have our event log, pretty self-explanatory. Any warning messages, cautions, or successful connections we'll see here. So at the end of this demo, we'll see successful connection to the HiveMQ broker. Over to the left, we have the project tree. This is where you'll see all of our features and where we'll be doing most of our work. And this giant blank space for now is just the details plane. Again, pretty self-explanatory here. Great. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to right click over here on connectivity. We're going to select new channel. Really all a channel is, hey, telling the server, how am I going to get down to the device I'm connecting to? Or simply put, what driver am I using? So the very first window you'll see of this wizard is, what driver are you using? And here's that super long list that Ryan was nice enough to read through fully and in detail. But at first, what we're going to do here is we're going to select the Allen-Bradley Ethernet driver. We'll click next. We're going to give this thing a name. We'll call it AB Ethernet. And this name can be whatever. It's totally up to you. And then I'm going to click through a lot of these. That's not just for demo purposes and for time. There is, we do a lot of work to make sure that our default settings for Kepware and for our drivers are going to work for 90% of the applications out there. If you do need help for saying, hey, I've got whatever 300,000 tags I need to get through at a certain rate, we have the ability to go in and tweak the settings to get that optimization. Now, not everyone is going to be, is going to know that right off the top of their head. Most might, but some may not. And we have a whole team of application engineers that all they do is this and optimize and troubleshoot and solve problems, so we can help you out there. Great. So we've created our channel. The next thing we're going to do is create a device, which is really in Kepware terms, just, hey, now that we have our driver, I need some information about the device that I'm trying to connect up to, or in this case, what's the IP address? So again, we'll give it a name. This can be whatever you want. We'll call it Slick 505. We have the model here that we'll select. And then there it is, the IP address. And this is a live PLC that we have in our device lab, which has hundreds of devices from all those different drivers you've seen that we can connect up to live, which is pretty fun. So we'll next through a bunch of those. One additional step we'll have to take, because it is a Slick, is we actually have to go in and I will move this over here so we can see. I do have to go and configure the slots. Thankfully, there's not too much here. So we'll go through, and I know just from being here and seeing the device that in slot 1, we've got an IA8 device, or rather IO card. And in the second slot, we have an OX8 output IO card. And we'll click apply. All right, so we've created our driver, we've created the device, and then now we have to import tags. There's a couple of different ways to do this. One is we can go in here, we can create a static tag, but that requires that I know the address of the tag within that PLC. If you know it, great. A lot of the times that works great for, like, let's say Modbus addresses, but not always the cleanest solution. What we're gonna do here in this case is actually go through and import a CSV file of those tags. This can be from the, I'm trying to get my, the RS Logix 500 software that we can, export that tag list and then import that in here. If you're using a more modern PLC, like a Compact or Control Logix, we have something called automatic tag generation, also available for some other modern devices, but we can actually, Kepware will go in, get that tag database directly from the device and import it into Kepware. So you don't need to know anything. But in this case, for this demo, it is legacy. And there's the first hiccup, but that's fine because we know where it is. Integrate live tags. That's what we want. Cool. So what we've done here is we've just imported some of these tags. And what you'll notice on the right to the details plane, we're seeing all the information, but we're not necessarily seeing any data. And that's on purpose. Like I said before, Kepware needs something to connect up to in order to actually see this data. Right now it's kind of useless. So what we'll do is we have this tool called Quick Client, which simply just creates an OPC DA connection into Kepware so we can quickly view that data. So now we'll scroll down, we'll go to some of our points here. We can start seeing some data. And what you'll notice is, there's not really a lot in here. And that's fine. There's no ladder logic right now in our PLC, but we're gonna fix that and we're gonna simulate that. So there's the no tricks up my sleeve here. I want to be upfront about that. This is just sort of tags living right now in the PLC. There's no ladder logic. There's no simulated factory. So what I've actually done a little bit ahead of time is we have this feature called advanced tags that just allows us to link a couple of different tags together. So what I've actually done is we have a few simulators running here that's simulating data. We've just linked it directly to that PLC. So for all intents and purposes, what we've done is we're just writing data to that PLC. All right, so we've connected up to the device. And then the last part, and this is really where the cool part begins, is we're actually now going to take that industrial data that we're getting from the SLC 505, that legacy data, we're going to convert it to MQTT and send it up to HiveMQ, and then let the Canary guys do their awesome stuff. That's a lot more exciting than Kepware. So we'll go in, we're going to configure our IoT gateway. We're going to select the MQTT client. We can give it a name. We'll just call it agent for now. And then here, what Ian has been so nice to do beforehand is to set up a broker for us. And he's actually going to, after this, go through and show us how easy it is to set that up. We've got a topic. We're going to call it IoT Gateway / Kepware. We're going to click next. I've got my super secret username and super secret password. That is definitely not the same thing with a few numbers. And then we'll click finish. Now, the final step here is simply just going in and adding the items that we have, essentially adding our tags. So we'll right click, and then we can browse for the specific tags that we want to add. At this point, Ryan, if you guys could tap dance for me for 10 seconds or so while I set this up here.
Sure, yeah. So I'll go ahead and while Kyle sort of gets onto that, I'll a couple of these questions that are coming in here. The first one is from Mark. Our company only uses the Sparkplug implementation of MQTT. Any thoughts on this from the group? So Sparkplug is a layer of organization and that sits on top of MQTT to help organize and format the data, and it provides a lot of context. There's some setup you need, and you got to have the the devices and the things that can talk Sparkplug. You can also talk JSON, you know, and you can really put anything into MQTT. But it's really a pro-con list. There's really not, you should always use Sparkplug or you should always use JSON. It really is, and that's something that, you know, in the Wonder breakouts, you can find, you know, go find Ian and talk through kind of the nitty-gritty details, or Josh Wolf on sort of why you would use one or the other of those particular technologies. So back to you, Kyle.
Awesome. Thank you. Great. So as you were watching there, all I did was just add a few of those tags to the IoT gateway. So I added the 3 that we're actually writing to from the PLC. So these AB Ethernet, that's SLC 505, tank level, pressure, process running, those are all coming directly from the PLC. But, you know, we want this to be a little bit more of an enriched demo. So I did add some more simulated tags. This just gives us a little bit more context, but I do want to be clear about that. And then finally, before I hand it off to Ian, we can see here that we've got the successful, hey, we've connected to the HiveMQ broker. So that's it for my portion of it. I guess we'll hand it off to Ian now.
Great, thanks, Kyle.
Right.
So let me share my screen here.
Ian, while you get that going, I'm going to just answer another one of these questions here. So I think Robert put in a question here saying, first, I've heard of MQTT, currently using Kepware. Canary's pulling data. So why would I need MQTT? Is it required for the cloud? You know, whatever that is. You know, what's the benefit? Why use it? And the real answer is, you know, you don't need MQTT to get your data to the cloud. You don't need MQTT to get your data from Kepware to somewhere else. The real benefit of MQTT is, like Ian mentioned, really, really light data transfer numbers, especially for remote site items. But also that it creates a centralized hub within your enterprise that you can organize and sort all of your live data. And the efficiency of setting up a MQTT server or cluster to manage all of that data and have a single source where you can go grab all of your live data from your organization is a huge advantage. It happens to be a quick and easy way also to get data into the cloud because it's secure out of the box and is also very network efficient. So even if you're not remote site and you're going to the cloud, your IT department is going to be thankful that you picked a protocol that isn't going to clog their WAN pipe out of your site's network. But back to you, Ian, on the HiveMQ setup.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, like if you're just going from Kepware to Canary and that's all you ever want to do with your data, then you probably don't need MQTT. But most cases we see, you want to get data to multiple places, right? So you want to get, and you have multiple sources of data. And that's where the complexity starts to come in, right? Where you get these pairwise integrations. And MQTT allows you to have this decoupled architecture so you don't have to kind of tightly integrate your data to a source and to a destination. So let me share my screen here. Sorry, am I sharing my screen?
Yes,
okay,
you are.
Okay. So what I want to do is go through and kind of show how you could, if you wanted to try this at home, how you could set up your own version of a HiveMQ broker on HiveMQ Cloud. And then I'll go and show you what we've done for this demo. So this is the HiveMQ website. If you go to HiveMQ under Cloud and say sign up now. So we really want to try and make this as easy as possible. And what we're going to do is we're going to sign up for our free tier. And our free tier basically allows you to have upwards to 100 devices connected. And generating 10 gigabits of data a month for free. So that's kind of where we come in with this. So basically you kind of come in, create an account. So we agree to our legal side. We get an email confirmation sent to kind of confirm that you are who you are. You confirm that. You add in a bit of information about who you are, so we know who you are. I'm going to promote myself to an architect. And so we can actually deploy HiveMQ Cloud on Azure or AWS. Well, let's go with AWS today. Give Jeff Bezos a few more cents for his fortune. So basically what we're doing is we're creating a cluster for you. And so we've got the cluster created. So this is basically an MQTT broker cluster that you can use now for upwards to up to 100 devices connected for free, basically. And so kind of this is the host name that that Kyle was using. There was a different one, but for instance, if kind of for this instance, this cluster instance. Right, so that's it. That's how easy it is to get going for this. So what I want to do is I want to kind of switch. I'm going to log out of this one and come back into the version that we had for this demo, and show a bit more about kind of how we do security here, because I think security is a really important part of any kind of industrial IoT system. And so first of all, everything's with TLS, right? So you can't actually connect to HiveMQ Cloud without TLS, right? So everything has to be authenticated with TLS, to use TLS. And what we do is we kind of, when you set up the broker, you can actually create what are called active MQTT credentials. So we distributed to Kyle, and he kind of went through his username and password. Canary will probably show you too, that we distributed client authentication to Canary too here, and Vertech, and for we've got a test client to set up. The test client, actually, what I wanted to kind of give you, I've got an instance of what's a utility, an MQTT utility called MQFX. And this is actually showing all the systems, all the messages coming through. So you can actually see the Kepware messages coming through today, right? So, and kind of, it just started. So basically, it looks like how you're generating a message every like 20 seconds or so, I think, approximately. Yeah, right. So you can actually kind of visualize what's going on today, but certainly Canary is going to do a much better job of visualizing the actual data. But so, yeah, so that's really it. So, and I think that's the key point here is that we want to make it as easy as possible for people to use MQTT, right? So you don't have to worry about installing a broker. You don't have to worry about running it. All you need to do is kind of set up the credentials, distribute the credentials to the appropriate clients that you want to have access, and you're ready, right? You're ready to go. We do allow you to kind of install and run HiveMQ yourself. That is certainly an option. A lot of our customers do that, but for this demo, we want to make it simple. So that's it for me. I'll turn it over to, I guess it's Josh from Canary.
No pressure, Josh.
Awesome.
You got 5 minutes.
Yeah, Kyle from Canary is gonna share a screen, and we're gonna kind of show you our collector interface. How we're thing.
Sure, feel free to jump in whenever, but just want to start off by showing my Canary admin tool. This is our centralized management tool so that system administrators can do everything from one smooth interface here. We'll go into our MQTT collector. Just a few configuration settings we need to do. Start off by giving our group name. So for today, of course, integrate live. Josh, you want to touch on some of the server information?
Sure. So within each group, we support multiple MQTT servers for a high availability infrastructure. So you can spin up multiple brokers so that if any one is down at any one time, you still get data flow through your environment. So we allow you to add more than one server there. So from this screen, you have the URI that Ian set up there, and then the credentials that he has pre-configured for our collector. Some other settings, we're enabling SSL there. So that's about it for the connection for the server-based connection. And then once you have that connection done, as Kyle mentioned, or was in the slide, we support 2 different formats, so JSON and SparkPlug-B. So we're gonna be using JSON as part of this demo. So the next line down there is the topic. So one of the cool things about MQTT is that you have basically a folder, like a folder-based structure of a topic name that you can split up amongst all of your devices that are publishing and subscribing. So that can be either very specific or very generic. And in this case, we actually have it being very generic. So that pound sign is actually 0 or more levels. So we're basically subscribing to the root of that server. Any of the data that comes through there, we're going to collect into Canary. And for this demo, that's perfectly acceptable. But for an enterprise environment, you're going to want to be more specific about which data you're subscribing to and which data sets in Canary you're pushing that data to. One of the cool things about MQTT, and in particular SparkPlug-B, is the auto discovery of the tags that are coming into a system. So we'll show you that once we show you the data that's being logged in Canary. So the dataset prefix, our collector actually has the ability to automatically generate the data sets in Canary. For those of you that aren't familiar with Canary, it's kind of like a SQL table, but it's just a way that we organize the tags in their data. So you basically configure a prefix, and we actually automatically generate multiple data sets potentially once you hit that 25,000 tag limit. So we can support hundreds of thousands of tags going into a series of automatically generated data sets and then expose that to you through our view service. So you have some other options there regarding tag name generation. So we automatically generate tag names using the topic that it's published on, as well as the metric name that comes out of that for uniqueness across the items coming across that MQTT server. So the options you have for JSON, you can choose the encoding. You basically just strip out the ID for the tag name, and that's already set up for Kepware's IoT format that they're publishing. So as you can see here, Kyle put up tags. We have the automatically log on, which means they automatically get enabled and they show up into our historian. You can choose a different mode where you automatically disable the tags, and then you have to manually enable them through here. So you have some filtering capabilities through this tool that you can do as well. So I think that's it for me, Kyle.
So we're configured. We'll go back and enable everything. And you see we have some data flowing. So now I just want to hop over briefly to Axiom. And you have from a security standpoint, put in my credentials here, username and password. So again, this is our trending dashboarding and reporting tool. I want to start by just showing what an application can look like. And it really does not take long to build out something like this. This is just using some simple Canary system health diagnostics, just some pretty basic tags. And again, this is all drag and drop based, so this could be done rather quickly. For today's purposes, it's going to build out a quick application. Like I said, we can do this because it's HTML based from a cell phone or a tablet out in the field. So I just quickly want to build out something that then we can pull up on my phone. If you know the pixel height and width, you can set it that way. Just going to grab a couple trends here. So here we have my historian, and this is the MQTT data that we're logging. It's going to grab this temperature and voltage tag. And now just something simple. I'm going to grab a donut gauge. We'll have to link that to a tag. We'll just use that same temperature tag. And I'm actually going to add the same one twice, and I'll show you why in a minute. Link it to the same tag. So here we have the live data coming in.
And as
For value.
just to
Yeah,
know
thanks,
this
Chris.
was done in like 20 minutes from end to end. You saw this start with Kyle, who was in Kepware, connecting to that PLC. You saw this reach up where Ian created an account, connected to Kepware, brought it into HiveMQ. Kyle got the least amount of time with Canary, and in 5 minutes has connected to HiveMQ, brought it over into Canary, storing it in history, and now is displaying both the trend and some donut gauges. And we respect that we're hitting about the end of this hour. But if you're here just to see the ending of this, keep on going, Kyle.
That's why I just applied a quick aggregate to show a 7-day average here. We can go in and save this. And now just to wrap it up, I'm quickly going to log in to my phone here and show you that we can log in from a cell phone and see that chart that I just built. So I just enter my credentials. And here we have on my phone the chart that we just built out. So there you can see them both. So that's as simple as it is. Stop sharing my screen here.
All right, so Chris, Ryan, did we solve the problem?
Yes, we did.
Definitely think we did.
What about the big question?
Yeah, what's the cost?
What's the cost? You mean
Oh, well, I'm sorry. What's the answer?
No,
to
the
poll?
answer to the trivia question.
Got it.
I think I saw
Trying to move
Paul.
things along here, Jeff.
Hey, listen, there's always time for the answer. Paul got it. It's the apostrophe. They removed the apostrophe from Pikes Peak. All right, Chris and Ryan, what did this thing cost?
Okay, so the reason why this is important, nobody's trying to sell you anything directly, but there's always a question from the end user or even as an integrator wondering of like, okay, do we just see a really expensive solution or is this actually affordable? So again, we don't care if you buy anything. This is literally just to show you what has been done as a part of the community because we're always interested in what is this going to take. So what you witnessed over there, you saw the Kepware server. So they were using the AB Suite and IoT Gateway plugin. That'll take up to 500 tags, and that is the limitation is on the IoT Gateway. That AB Suite will connect to as many devices as you want with as many tags as you want. But we wanted to be transparent and show you that this was done specifically the limitations on the IoT Gateway. We're sending it up by MQTT. So that's your Kepware pricing per year. HiveMQ, free. Yeah, that's right. 100 devices, 10 gigs. Obviously, if you exceed the 100 devices or you exceed the 10 gigs, they make money. There are paid versions of HiveMQ. And then lastly, on the Canary side, it was set up to match the other system. So it was on a 500 tag, 1 Axiom, and that is your cost per month at $155. So summary there, 500 data points coming up from legacy controllers, $250 a month. And obviously, when you scale this thing huge, there are cost efficiencies because you're not increasing all of these linear. There are tiers, so you can bring in 10,000 tags, or bring in 1 million. We've done 3.5 million tag systems into Canary. It's very affordable, and so that is true. We've done the same thing with Kepware. So that's the solution that you saw today.
All right. We are 5 minutes past our top of the hour stop. So let's do this. Let's take all of the questions. Let's bring them over to Wonder. Unless there's one or two, Ryan or Chris, that you feel like we should hit on before we migrate to Wonder. Is there a burn?
I think
Take
there's
the hardware one.
Okay. Do
Yeah,
it.
the hardware one that Chris mentioned. Let's make sure we touch that.
Let's get that for everybody. So Kyle from Kepware, if I wanted to connect to a serial device that is not having an Ethernet connection, What can I do?
Yeah, so we can handle that, but really your limiting factor there comes down to the actual physical media. So somewhere along the actual physical connection, you're going to have to get some sort of hardware converter from serial to Ethernet, so that, you know, whatever, DB9 to RJ45, or maybe you have a laptop that's got a serial, you know, connection in there. That's cool if you have that, but you still have to somewhere, again, down that line, do that physical media conversion. There are settings in Kepware where you can actually configure that, so the driver knows that it's being converted, but that is something that you'll have to do somewhere down the line. And I'm sure, you know, I come from a Rockwell distributor. That's my background, so I know of other vendors that do it. I'll leave it up to the SIs and the true professionals here to recommend the hardware.
And just throwing it out there, some of those common ones. So yes, obviously you can get into a bunch of different gateways. There's dozens and dozens of manufacturers. One that comes up a lot in what we do is you're going to see Moxa for their gateways. Another really cool one that we use from time to time, there's one by Red Lion called Data Station Plus, and that'll get at a bunch of this legacy. Sadly, there are moments with old CNCs or old machines where you just have to do a slight upgrade, and maybe getting an Ethernet card put into it, some kind of upgrade to the machine, because it just isn't going to be possible hit. Or at the very least, take off some direct IO, throw in some sensors, wire those up again to a gateway or another PLC, and you start this journey. We've done that a million times. Paul King referenced on this call, we've taken 1940s machines and gotten them up to an MES system. So you can do what you want to do. There's always a way if you have the will.
Yep. And I'll just add in, there's one other question that's just easy to answer, to catch it here, and I think a lot of people will think about it. A lot of times there's IT departments and they're like, whoa, you can't let this OT network and the internet talk, right? We can't send stuff. That's one of the benefits of MQTT, is that inside the OT network is going to be pushing out into the internet. And so even if you can't do that correctly, there's proxying and there's other solutions there. So specific use cases and requirements in any organization are always going to be a little different. That's what we're here, can hop in the Wonder Room and maybe talk about some of those things. But it is a solvable problem.
Jeff, take us to Wonder.
All right, everybody, check your chat. There's a link. Click on it. Pop over. We're going to continue this discussion in the Wonder Room. This is where you can run right up and literally tackle or jump on top of Chris or Ryan at Vertech. Ask them the question. Run over and ask Kyle and Steve at Kepware a question. The Canary guys, go ask Ian a question about his preference on MQTT, or move over to the dad joke section and give your best dad joke. We will see you over there.